Hey guys, today we're going to be doing a get ready with me. I'm going to be throwing some makeup on my face. We're going to be talking about it. I am so excited to be using a whole bunch of ESUM Cosmetics makeup. They just recently came out with these artistry palettes, which are incredible. And I am working with ESUM Cosmetics on this video. I am so proud to be working with them. I've been using them since way back, since like 2019, I think is when I first started using ESUM, their brushes. And they are the one and only company after all of these years that I've actually done a formal collaboration with. If you guys remember, I did a brush set with them. And we did it 2 years in a row because it was so successful. And well, let me just show you. I love their brushes. I love their brushes so much. So anyway, we're gonna be getting into all of these new artistry palettes, and of course I'm gonna be throwing in a bunch of my other favorite ESUM stuff, but I just love this company so much. They're so dedicated to and committed to the pro makeup artists out there. Their products haven't strayed from that, and the quality of their products, I mean, you can see that this is meant for pro makeup artists, that they're meant to be mixed, played with, they're meant to be long lasting, but they're not meant to be uncomfortable in any way. They're just really well made makeup products. I just love how dedicated and committed they are to the pro makeup artists out there. So yeah, so I couldn't be more proud to be working with them on this video. So they just came out with a whole bunch of artistry palettes, which we will be getting into, but these are like mind-blowingly incredible. And we'll be getting into it. There's 5 of them. I'm going to be using them all in this video. There is one that is like surprisingly one of my favorites, and we will really dive into that. But I'm going to go ahead and just throw on some foundation. I'm using the Surratt Beauty Dewdrop foundation just to start here. I have shade number 3. And then next, I'm going to be using the new Dewdrop Concealer from Surratt, also in shade number 3. This concealer is incredible, which I've already talked about, so I won't dwell on that. Let me just blend that in. And my skin has been feeling actually a little bit very well moisturized. Did that make any sense at all? A little bit very well moisturized. So I'm going to use a little bit of powder. I've got my Givenchy Prism Libre powder here. I'm going to use my ESUM X51 brush. Just pick up a little product, set that concealer down. And let's dive right into these artistry palettes. So ESUM has created a whole line of artistry palettes, which again, are very much geared towards makeup artists. So this packaging is so great. This just slides right out and you can just remove the cover, and all of the packaging is the same. So if you end up with a whole bunch of covers, it doesn't matter. You don't have to like match them up. You can throw them onto whichever palette. And then these are all refillable. So this back part also slides off, and you can see there the pans pop out. So we have a whole range of shades, again, perfect for the makeup artist. For like an everyday kind of bronzy contour look, I kind of go between these 2 shades. If I'm feeling a little strong, I'll go into this shade, but I kind of just dab my brush between these 2. These powders are so silky smooth. I wish you guys could reach through and feel how smooth these are. And this goes for all of the powder products. Really just super finely milled, and they just blend out beautifully. So I'm going to use the V50 brush from ESUM. This is an angled cheek brush, and I'm just going to go between these 2 shades and just apply it right under my cheekbone there. Isn't that so pretty? It just gives me the most perfect contour without looking too, what's the word? Sometimes contours, when they're really effective, I feel like, and very dramatic and theatrical, they have like a really gray tone to them. And I think that's, you know, usually what we think of as like a great contour. It's very cool toned, it's very gray. But in real life, it can look very stark. Somehow, ESUM has been able to manage to create shades that are not super cool toned, but they work perfectly as a contour. Aren't they so pretty? And then for like a little bit of bronze, I am gonna go into this deeper shade here. It's the 4th deepest shade. I'm not gonna pick up too much. I don't wanna get too crazy. And just lightly dust it on my forehead. Freckle spots, chin, just gorgeous. The undertones in this palette are stupendous. Absolutely stupendous. So that is the Structure palette. Did I even mention that? I'm sorry. It's the number 8 Structure Face Sharper palette. That's the technical name for it. I've just been calling it the contour palette from ESUM. And then next, I want to use here is the full name. It's the number 9 Accentuate Blush palette. And again, we've got the slide off cover. And look at these shades. Oh, just gorgeous. We have cool tone pinks. We have warmer oranges here, and then we have a nice deeper plum shade. So I do like mixing these two or these two. I'm gonna go with these two just for a more natural look. And I'm going to go in with, which brush should I use? So I'm gonna use the V49 brush, and I'm just gonna dab between the first 2 shades. I'm just gonna lightly dust onto my cheekbones. And all of these shades are matte, both in the Structure palette and this blush palette, but they are not flat looking at all. They're just so natural. It really just makes your skin look like it's giving off these colors. Doesn't look like you have makeup on at all. Do you see what I mean? It's so soft. They're like perfectly pigmented. And then I'm just gonna throw on a little bit of highlighter. I have my Surratt Ariel highlighter here. I'm gonna use the X52 brush. Go into this highlight. Bring it real natural here. And then I'm gonna move on to my ESUM Brow Defining Pencil. I have 2 shades, Brunette and Ebony. I'm gonna go with Brunette. I feel like Ebony I like to put on in like the winter months when, you know, my hair looks a little bit darker because my skin is so pale. So I'm gonna go with Brunette. Let me just do a little swatch for you so you can see the tone. But there is Brunette. It's definitely deep enough and cool enough, which I like. I am not into a warm eyebrow. And this point, it's like a micro point. So good. And of course, like any good brow pencil, it is not too pigmented, so it's mistake proof. All right, and now for eyes. So I have the number 1 Balance eyeshadow palette, and this is the palette that appeared in my favorites a couple months ago. But here are swatches of all of these shades. These are all matte and so silky smooth. And again, so like perfectly pigmented, not overly pigmented where like, oopsie, you make a mistake like really quickly, and they're not underpigmented, so you know, it doesn't even show up. They're just perfect. They're like the Goldilocks of eyeshadows. So that's the Balance palette. And then they have an Intensity eyeshadow palette. Look at this guy. Is that not stunning? They're all metallics, and here are some swatches for this. So the top row, I would say probably has the least amount of quote unquote shine, but it is still very beautiful. It's like a high shine satin. And then the next 2 rows are a little bit more foily, but they're, oh my God, they're so beautiful. These 2 shades, oh my God, I love so much. so much. So that is the Intensity eyeshadow palette. I'm gonna start with the Balance eyeshadow palette. So I'm gonna go in with the V34 brush. This is a great blender brush. And I'm gonna start with, what I usually like to do is kind of mix these 2 shades together. I guess I'll start there. That's a pretty neutral starting point. And I'm just applying it to my outer corner, into my socket line area, just to kind of frame out my eyes a little bit here. I'm gonna deepen that up a little bit with this shade down here, and just focus that on the outer corner, just to add a little bit of dimension. Next, I'm gonna move to the W23 brush, this flat shader, and move over to the Intensity eyeshadow palette. And I'm gonna lay this shade down all over my lid. Is that not gorgeous? And then I'm gonna take the S33 brush, and I'm gonna go into the deeper metallic shade here. I just want to add a little bit of drama, a little bit more drama to the eyes here, and just really focus that on the outer corner and blend in. Isn't that so pretty? It's like really smoked out. Oh, I love that. I love that shade. And I'm gonna take the V31 brush and go into that same deep shade. I'm just gonna pick up a little bit of it, not too much. And I'm gonna drag it my lower lash line here. And then I'm gonna take my W19 brush and I am going to grab this top shade here, which has that really beautiful kind of gold reflect in there. I'm gonna add this to my tear duct area just a teeny bit. And I'm gonna add a teeny bit just to, like if I look straight ahead to my lower lash line, just right underneath my iris. So this little trick I learned from Alphonse. It was in one of his Instagram photos, and you know, this is basically like a halo eye, but it was just so much more subtle. You know, a halo eye, at least on YouTube, it was done like so dramatically that I always kind of shied away from it. But when he did it just on the under eye, like the lower lash line, I just thought it was so beautiful. So ever since then, whenever I think of Alphonse, I think of this. But he is like the co-founder and the creative director over at Muse Beauty Pro and ESUM, and he is like, wow, what an incredible makeup artist. So anyway, I just wanted to give a shout out to him for that little under eye business. And now I'm gonna use one of my all-time favorite brushes. I'm laughing because I remember when I started using this and I found the best way that it worked for me, and I shared it with you guys. So many of you went gaga, which was so great. I was like, oh my gosh, does it work for you too? So this is the W36 brush, and it's such an interesting brush. Do you see how old mine is? The bristles are starting to display. I've used it so much. But it's a round ferrule, but then it's actually angled. So I love using it on the outer corner. I place like the angled bristles just right at an angle, and then I just flick in for a deeper color. So I thought I would be able to use a deeper color, but this one is actually pretty deep. But let's just do it. Let's just do it. I'm gonna go in to this shade here, and I'm just gonna pick up just a little bit, and I'm covering all the bristles on the angle there. And I'm gonna place right at an angle that I want. I'm gonna press down and flick, and you just get like a nice clean line, and it just blends perfectly. Like you don't have to do any work except for the flicking. Isn't that so pretty? I'm gonna do it on the other side now. It just works so beautifully. It's also great for like crease area. Yeah, it's really awesome. And there's two shapes, not two shapes, there's two sizes to this shape brush. So the W36 is the one that I'm using. It's the smaller one. Then there's also the W35. So you can see how much bigger the 35 is. But if you have like maybe a larger eye area, you could do this. Or it's also just, it's just such a great shape. I love using it just all over my eye too. So anyway, I thought I would go ahead and do that again since it's been a while since I've done that flick for you guys. So pretty. Okay, so let's line my eyes. I'm gonna use yet another favorite ESUM brush. This is the T05 brush. Focus, here we go. And this is one of those straight edge brushes where it's not meant to, you know, blend or do anything like that. It's meant to be like a stamping tool. So I'm gonna go back to the Balance palette, and I'm gonna go into the black shade here. And I'm just gonna kind of jab the pan and then wiggle my brush a little bit, knock off any excess, and then I'm gonna go underneath my lashes and just stamp. And going underneath the lashes, for me, because I have very thick lids, really works. I feel like it makes like such a difference. It does what I think eyeliner is supposed to do, which is make your eyelashes look even longer because it makes them look like they're receding. It kind of outlines your eyes and really makes like the whites stand out. And I feel like I'm able to achieve that with just a little bit here. Just this little bit of stamping. If I do want a more dramatic look, of course, I'll stamp like over my eyelashes, but sometimes I just want a little bit of accent, one that you can't even notice. I mean, you'll notice, but you don't even like see like this, you know, line of eyeliner. It's more subtle. Okay, I'm just going to curl my lashes use my Lancome Lash Idole mascara. This is the waterproof version. I've been using this like ever since I opened it, and I just want to finish it before I open another mascara. Okay, now, you guys, are you ready for this? This is their Nuance Lip Palette. So this is the final palette that I want to show you. And if you guys have been with me for a long time, you know that I'm not the biggest lip palette fan. However, I think now that this has come into my life, I don't know how else to say it. Now that this one has come into my life, I am a lip palette fan. This has like just all the shades you would ever want, and it really brings out the inner artist in me. Like, I really love the idea of mixing and matching. And I find that, well, not only is it really hard to find like your perfect shade just right out of the bullet, but I think everyone's idea of like what a nude shade is very different. And of course, like reds can be very tricky. The undertones can look very, very different on different people. So I really, really love the idea of being able to kind of mix up my own shade. And the reason why I usually have an issue with nude colors is that they're usually too warm, and sometimes I don't mind that, and sometimes, like especially when my skin gets a little tan, I think that looks pretty decent on my skin tone. But I personally, and this is probably because, you know, I was like a young adult in the 90s, I really love a cool toned nude. So I love like that there's this in here, and I can even throw in a little bit of purple in there if I want, just to make it even cooler. So I've really been focusing on these three shades, these two, and these two quite a bit. I'm sure that comes as no surprise to you when you look at this, but look at these gorgeous bright shades down at the bottom. It's just really, really beautiful. So the top row is meant to be like 5 nude shades. Then the second row is meant to be 5 more classic shades, and the bottom row are 5 very bold shades. But of course, I really encourage you to play around with the shades and mix them up, especially if you're someone that has a hard time like finding that perfect shade in the store, and you're always kind of like maybe mixing two together, or like throwing a lip liner in there to, you know, make up for any lack of color or tone or something. I really, really love this. And the texture of these is so good. I have found in the past that a lot of palettes are either too dry or too creamy, you know, where you put your brush in and it's like it's almost muddy in a way. These have like the perfect texture, and they're so comfortable on the lips. There's hyaluronic acid in here, and it just makes my lips feel so comfortable. So I'm actually going to start with lip liner. So actually, maybe I'll go with lip liner later. Sometimes I like using lip liner to clean up, but ESUM has like 3 dual-ended lip liners that we can play with. I'm gonna do, surprise, surprise, I'm gonna do a cool toned nude lip. I'm gonna grab the W19 brush, my clean one. Here we go. The W19 brush makes for an excellent, excellent lip brush. So I'm gonna dip my brush into this shade right here. And you can see as I'm just dipping it in, can you tell that it's not like too soft? And that's what that shade looks like. So I'm just kind of laying it down on the back of my hand. And then I'm gonna grab some of this shade, this cooler purple, just a little bit, just to cool it down even more. So this is where we're at now. Sorry, I swatched this like on the worst place on my hand. I'm gonna add a little bit of this in, which has more brown in it. I think I could cool it down even more by adding this top lilac shade, which has more white in it than this one. So there's the shade we have now. So I'm going to pick that up. If you're into an ombre lip look, this is like perfect. And also, if you don't feel like mixing so much on the back of your hand, you can also do it on your lips. Like if you just want to play around with like a couple colors, I had no problem with the idea of like putting 2 colors onto your lips and then just like smashing your lips together. That works just fine too. There, that actually turned out a lot pinkier than I was wanting. Yeah, it looks lighter on my lips. So I'm gonna grab a little bit more of these 2 colors here, and I'm gonna do what I just said. I'm gonna mix them on my lips here. There. That's like the perfect everyday nude color for me. Now, I was gonna use a lip liner, but I think I'm actually pretty good. But let me just show you some of these lip liners because I love the fact that they're dual-ended, so you're basically getting 2 in 1. So the shade for this dual lip liner is Blushed, and this is probably the one that I use the most. So there's like a pinkier one and a nude one. And this is probably what I would use if I needed a little lip line here. But the other one I use the most, so there's one that's like red, and it's actually called Red. That's the name of the pencil. So let me just swatch the two reds for you. It's like a deeper kind of russet red, and then more of like a primary red. But the other pencil that I use probably the most is Nude, and there's basically like a light nude and a very deep chocolatey nude. So here's the nude pencil. All right, so that is my look today using mostly ESUM products. I'm loving these artistry palettes. It really does bring out like the inner artist in me. I just start to like want to play with colors and mix colors and like experiment. I just love it. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, and a big thank you to ESUM for working with me again. Like I said, they're just a company and a brand that I love to stand behind, and their products just speak for themselves. They're just absolutely impeccable. So I have them all linked down below if you are interested, and subscribe down below also if you haven't already, and I'll see you in my next video.